This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio is brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. JMB Cycle and Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment. And Silverwax, absolute care for everything you drive. Thank you. Welcome to the program. And yes, look around you, kiddies. I'm flying solo. Unencumbered. Unencumbered, I say. Our good friend, Mr. Bowman, is on vacation, so we gave him the day off today. Allowed him to be on vacation. I could have called him back from vacation, but no, we did the right thing. Welcome to the program, Angela Viola, Nikki V over there. Dean Taylor over here. They're both going to be helping me out.
Come on now.
Today, in case I start struggling, which I probably will. Wonderful program. One of the topics, the main topic actually, is near and dear to me from days gone by. I loved backpacking into the wilds of Algonquin Park when I was much younger and spent a lot of time there. And aside from the great experience that was on its own because of the wilderness, it was so pristine, the fisheries, the wildlife, everything was fantastic. But one thing kept us going probably for a lot longer than we would have normally, and that was the knowledge that somewhere there was an experimental lake. Somewhere in Algonquin Park, they were conducting experiments. What we thought was happening is that they were taking various species of fish and seeing how they would adapt to waters in Algonquin Park, and maybe, that was the birth of the splake experiment that we all loved back then because it gave us an opportunity to fish for a fishery that was a put and take fishery, especially in Algonquin Park. And that was taking a speckled trout and a lake trout and combining them to make this thing called a splake, which was, I thought it was great. A lot of people didn't, but I thought it was a great opportunity for us. But anyways, it was this experimental lake or series of lakes that we never did find out much about. We certainly didn't find them, but more importantly, we never really found anything out about the whole program. Well, guess what? We may have them on the show today.
Give me a hell yeah.
Yeah, baby. And I say maybe because we'll be joined here in a few minutes by Pauline Gerrard. She's the executive director of the International Institute of Sustainable Development, Experimental Lakes area in northwestern Ontario, around the Kenora area. So maybe this was the project that we thought was happening in Algonquin Park, but it was not. So we'll find out a little later on. Fishingcanada.com. I don't know whether you noticed or not. Nice.
We have some beautiful T-shirts. And they're not getting much love these days.
Oh my God!
I don't know what's going on. It's because we got all those beautiful new species hoodies.
Ah, they're dominating.
We
aren't they?
seem to have forgotten about our wonderful colored shirts, such as the one you're wearing.
Wonderful, thank you.
They're wonderful. They're beyond wonderful.
They're
comfortable.
Thank you.
They're durable.
Thank you.
They're fantastical.
The lovely and talented Nick V.
What's the one that Ange is wearing right now?
That's the Seafoam. That's also the one that's behind him.
Okay.
No relation.
Okay.
No, it's a good shirt. All embroidered in Brantford, Ontario.
Yes, hand embroidered. A building full of little old ladies are hand embroidering all these things for. No, and it's not.
I'm going to tell Tim you called him a little. I'm going to tell Tim you called him a little old lady.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, all kinds of new stuff to check out. Fishing Canada, the store. Go to fishingcanada.com and just click on the store on the bar at top. Or you can go to shop.fishingcanada.com if you want to go directly to the retail area. We haven't given anything away lately. How come? Didn't we used to give away all kinds of stuff?
We haven't read any...
yeah, Nick has a code for today.
I got a code for today.
Oh, do we do that now? Or
I can do that now. It's going to be plastic.
Oh.
Plastic. Plastic.
Okay, and what happens with plastic?
Well, so it's similar to the bonus code. I used to read out the bonus code every week, right? But now whenever we have those contests again, It's going to be the same code. They're all going to work nice in conjunction with each other.
Okay.
However, for this week, so this will air on a Thursday.
Okay.
Up until next Thursday,
Yes.
if you purchase something on the store
Yes.
and you go to the checkout, and at the very top it says enter your coupon code here.
Yes.
You type in plastic, instant 15% off.
But I'm confused. Because you said this will go out Thursday.
Well, yeah.
And then you said up until Thursday.
Yeah, every Thursday there's going to be a new code.
Oh,
They expire.
It expires.
You got 7 days to use plastic.
So
After
if I
hearing
miss-
this, if it's a Thursday, if you hear it on a Friday, you got 6 days. If you hear it on Wednesday night, you got like 5 hours.
That's why you have to subscribe and listen.
You gotta subscribe so that you know when these codes are going out. Otherwise, you're SOL, man.
And what does that entail?
It entails just punching it in right at checkout. It says enter your coupon code. You go boop boop.
No,
boop,
the subscription part.
The subscription part.
Yeah.
Boop.
And why do they have to subscribe?
Well, if they subscribe, they can
Yes.
turn on notifications. And if they turn on notifications, then they get a boop whenever we put something out, which is every Thursday.
Gotcha. So they don't, like me, for example, I would forget by Friday night, I've forgotten
By
what happened
Friday
Thursday.
morning, you've forgotten what happened
Gotcha.
Thursday night.
So really, you're making fun of people like me that happens to forget.
My people have
Your
just
people.
created tools for your people to be more efficient in my world.
All right. Okay.
Oh.
All right. I'll buy that. You buy that, Dean? Dean, you buy any of that stuff?
I'm in between worlds, so yeah, I get it.
Yeah, you are. You are.
Are you technically Gen Z?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 1 year in.
You're what? You're the
boy.
you're the
The problem.
You're the problem.
Child.
We started it.
you're the problem.
Listener feedback, kiddies. This time it's coming from at JJ-VO2ET via YouTube. JJ-VO2ET says, in response to our conversation about the upcoming trip to Kippawa.
Yeah,
here we go,
pretty
boys.
timely.
You guys are both on that trip, right?
That's right, we are.
That's
Okay, well.
Taggart Bay, right?
All right. Yes.
Yeah, that is, yep.
All right. So listen up. He says, another great episode, boys. A Nipigon is a single barbless and has been for at least a dozen years. What's the relevance with that?
I think this was this part was in response to our podcast episode where we were talking. I think we had
About barbless.
yeah, and we had a fan write in saying he's going to Nipigon and he's excited and wanted advice for the trip. So this guy's just helping out. But the next part is about Kippawa.
So the next part, he says, while fishing Kippawa, make sure you check. Now, should we be reading this out loud to the public? Like, this guy might be sharing his biggest, darkest secret. You know what I mean?
The censored button.
I was wondering that too, but he put it in public on YouTube. So
he did?
If he's really trying to hide this, he didn't have a good start.
So we're okay. And you're saying that he won't mind.
He put it right out to the public.
Yeah,
anyways.
exactly. All right. So while fishing Kippawa, make sure you check out and fish all areas of Campbell Bay or Bien Campbell. Is that right?
That sounds good. That's pretty good French.
Oh, it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. It's a smallmouth paradise and a major geological feature of the area. Wow.
And we were actually told about this same place by the people at Taggart Bay. So if you watch the Fishing Canada show, you're definitely going to see this area on the show. I've never been. Have you been to Kippawa, Ange?
No.
Wow.
I've heard about it because our good friend, Mr. Lindros, has a cottage.
Come on now.
And he's, Eric, of course, the ex-Philadelphia Fly. Actually, I could say ex-Leaf.
Ex-Maple Leaf, yeah.
Yeah, he
Ex-Maple.
played for the Leafs for a cup of coffee, right? I think he was here one season, couple of seasons.
Yep.
He bought an old fishing lodge that had closed up. He bought it and turned it into a cottage. So he's been inviting us to go there for years. When he sees this episode, he says, nice guys, you wouldn't come up when I invited you, but you went on your own.
Yeah.
So anyways, what's the geological feature of the area? Did you look into that?
What I can see, it's just these huge rock walls like you see on the screen. I'm not sure what exactly. I think there was like a, what do they call it? Like pictographs and stuff.
Oh.
I think there's lots of that in that area, but it's
That'd be cool.
Oh, yeah, for
I
sure.
believe. So we're definitely going to check that out.
All right. There you go. Thank you. I've got to go and read this next.
JJV2TE.
You by memory? You went by memory? Or
I'm good.
Damn, you're good. All right. It's JJ-VO2ET.
I missed an O.
All right. Conservation Corner. Conservation Corner's right there. Brought to you by Invasive Species Centre, and we are going to once again remind you and me, because I need it too, probably more than you, about grass carp, which were originally brought into the U.S. to control, of all things, to control aquatic plants. You see, they had some problems on the Mississippi River. And the problem was the vegetation was getting totally unruly and out of hand, and they couldn't harvest it fast enough. So some brilliant scientist said, hey, there's a critter over there across the pond that probably could consume most of this vegetation you got here and solve your problem. So they brought these grass carp in and put them in pens. They would pen up the areas that they wanted the vegetation to be consumed. And everything was fine. Everything went well for about 5 years. And then a great flood caused these critters to get out of the pens, probably destroyed the pens, and the grass carp started swimming around freely. And next thing you know, they're because it's the Mississippi or an arm of the Mississippi, they just went spread far and wide. And they obviously were not just consuming the areas that were targeted with this vegetation that whoever it was wanted to get rid of, but they actually started consuming all vegetation. It didn't take long to figure out that these critters consume up to 40% of their body weight each and every day of green, lush vegetation. That's why they were so useful at eradicating whatever weeds were there in the first place. But out in the wild, not so much, because they've grown to humongous proportions, some reportedly up to 80 pounds. So do the math. That's about 30 pounds of vegetation that animal needs just on its own each and every day just to live. So put hundreds, if not thousands of these in an environment, and it wouldn't take long to make it a desert. That's what the big fear is that they get up into our neck of the woods, north of the Great Lakes, and start eating all the vegetation that we've got, that we take for granted, because this vegetation is the lifeblood to the sport fishery that we have in this country. So if we sound like we're harping, yeah, we are, because it's a big deal. You need to be vigilant. You need to stay on top of it. You need to be in the know on what to do if and when you spot one of these critters. The best thing to do is go to the website, asiancarp.ca, and identify the critter. It's called a grass carp. Download the image onto your phone. Take all the information that you can with you every time you go out in the water, and see if we can make a difference. If you see one, obviously there's a 1-800 number that you can communicate the message to and let the people, the authorities, know exactly where you was.
Come on now.
Thank you. This in the news, kind of interesting. By the way, the news is brought to you by, or was that the...
No, this is brought to you by J&B Cycle Marine.
J&B Cycle Marine, our good friends, Rob and the boys. Ontario, by the way, Ontario's largest Princecraft mercury dealer.
That is one hell of
Come
an
on now.
accomplishment.
Give us do you have a
Give me a hell yeah!
do you have like an applause button, Dean? I know. Yeah! Perfect. So here's the problem with having a lot of buttons in life, and Dean can relate to this. At first, when there's that novelty factor, when you get new buttons, for Christmas, your birthday, Easter, whatever you celebrate, you get new buttons and you're all excited and you play with all these buttons for about 3-4 days. You're pissing everybody off, pushing buttons all the time. And then what happens, the novelty wears off and you don't use them anymore.
I've actually had a few complaints that I use them too much.
Who has complained that
I can get you names.
They have written it.
They have written in and said that it is unlistenable because of what I'm doing over
And
here.
the problem is he's paid by the button.
Yeah. So I'm not getting any pay, and I have no fans.
He's damned if he
So
does, and he's
the
damned if he
fans are
doesn't.
keeping you from making a living the only way you know how.
Yeah.
That is unconstitutional. It's illegal for sure, but it goes against all of your rights
I
as a
agree.
human being. You know that, eh?
Yeah,
They
but-
cannot keep you from making a living.
But for them, I'm quiet, and the show goes on.
And then it's listenable.
I kind of like the buttons myself.
Yeah, I kind of like them too. They're fun to press.
Come on now.
There you go. See, but see that one you did use
That one
quite
I use all
often.
the time.
Do it live.
Yeah, that one not so much.
Where's my buddy Jim?
Jimmy Kunda.
There's a bunch of bullshit.
There
Thank
he
you.
is.
That used to be all over the place.
Yeah.
There's so much.
We
so
have a
they
whole
even-
T-shirt
they did a
dedicated to
T-shirt
it.
about Jimmy.
Yeah, that one needs to come back. I think you're right.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyways, JMB. How do we get it's JMB Cycle? Ontario's large. It could be Canada. Well, all right. Here's my thinking. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Ontario is the largest province in the country, is it not? By population, and maybe
Yep.
by not by geography,
Not by size, but
not
by
geography.
population.
By population, it is the largest. So these are people who can consume products, any product. Therefore, my thinking is this: if JMB Cycle and Marine, Ontario's largest Princecraft Mercury boat dealer here in Ontario, would that not make them the largest in all of Canada?
I would have to think so, but Quebec probably would have something to say just because they claim Princecraft.
Okay, I just
Oh, I see where you're going with this, Dean.
Somewhere near Princeville's probably got something going.
I see where you're going with this. Okay. All right. But I can still claim it.
Yep.
It is my right to be able to make those opinions.
Yep, it's your podcast.
This is JMB Cycle, Ontario's largest Princecraft Mercury Marine in all of Canada, then. I'll just add it to the end of that.
Come on now.
Thank you. Anyways, so they're bringing you the news today. The news is, can Whitefish bounce back? Published by Manistee News. Who the hell is Manistee
They're in
News?
Michigan. I just thought I should give them a little shout out.
Oh, you're reaching below that. Don't forget the situation, eh? They might charge you.
Yeah,
on this.
I don't think they listen to this, but I'll make sure I'm recovered.
All right, because I don't want to get in
there's
trouble.
no talking about or nothing like that.
Oh, true, yeah.
Nuh-uh.
We'll get demonetized.
Yeah, it's straight up. We get
Oh.
we get beaten up whenever you mention that.
Yank it. Cut it.
Yeah.
Post.
It's gonna all be censored out. No
Tell-
one's gonna even know what we're talking about
Tell
right
the
now.
post-production people to look after that. Anyways, lake whitefish populations are collapsing in Lake Michigan and Huron. Both. I did not know that, Dean.
Oh my.
I did not know that. Not aware of that at all. But then again, whitefish isn't one of those species that I spend a lot of time checking out.
No, I think the commercial boats would notice it more, which I think is where the story comes from. Because
And where does the commercial? I mean, I know of commercial fishery, commercial harvests in our Great Lakes of whitefish, but where do they sell them? Because I've never even seen a whitefish for sale.
so I actually saw when we talked to remember the All Too Clear, the documentary people. Who
Yes.
they were saying that a lot of the fish and chip stands down where they are, which I think they were like on Georgian Bay, is all whitefish. So I don't know if they just can call it fish. So when you buy fish and chips, it's just whitefish, and they don't have to tell you. But apparently, a lot of that is whitefish.
You could probably buy it at all those seafood markets though too. And
I've never seen it. Never seen whitefish for sale. That's why I say I know there's a commercial harvestry for it, but and in fact, quite a commercial harvest for it. It's dropped from 7.8 million pounds a year in 1985 to 2.3 million in 2024. So it's dropped significantly, 80% since then. Now, is that because of the lack of fish, or is that because of lack of demand?
So apparently, it's a zebra mussel issue.
Oh,
Where I think a lot of their spawning beds aren't suitable habitat anymore because they're just like matted with zebra mussels. So I think that's one of the big problems. And they kind of showed that a little bit in that documentary, which we do have on our website.
Okay.
You can go watch it there. But that's one of the biggest
because
parts.
those mussels just coat the bottom of the bed.
And the zooplankton that they're consuming are what the whitefish fry would need to survive. So this report actually said that the whitefish are spawning. Like they are, the adults are spawning. The young just aren't surviving.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so what's the net result here?
Well, there's one interesting thing that I saw. There was a quote where they were saying that there's no fish in any of the nets that they've been putting out. And it really reminded me a lot about what you said happened in Bay of Quinte.
Bay of Quinte.
Where it's like, okay, they've been doing these studies since 1985 before zebra mussels were where they are now.
Yeah.
And now they're saying, these nets, they're just not turning up fish. The numbers must be low when, like, as you kind of learned back then, the fish are going to adapt.
They adapt. We don't,
Yeah.
right? Fish can turn on a dime,
Yeah.
right? Because it's survival for them. We don't. We don't get it. We're pretty dumb that way.
So I am curious how thoroughly they've tested, moving nets and experimenting with different ways of counting, because it may just be an issue of that.
It's a catch-22 though, because if you talk to scientists, what they'll tell you, and the reason that they don't move the nets right. By the way, what Dean is talking about is the nets he's referring to are nets that the scientific community use to do fish counts. So they intercept fish, and based on the biodensity in that area, if they caught 10 fish today, times whatever the area they estimate to have, that's 8 billion fish, or whatever the formula is. And they do this every year in various bodies of water because it's good fish management. You always want to know what the inventory is. If you have a shoe store and you don't count your inventory, pretty soon you're going to be out of business because you're out of size 7s and you don't know it. So fisheries biologists, they're good at that. They're constantly counting their fish. But when you ask them, do they ever move these nets? And they say no. The reason being is that it would totally upset their entire formula. Because if they move the nets over there next year, that is a totally different count than it has been here. So by keeping it here year in, year out, they can monitor if the population is growing or if it's dropping. And the problem, though, is that when the fish stop coming here, you're pretty much euchred. You think you're out of fish, but they're all over there. Mm-hmm. But you didn't count them because you didn't want to mess up your counting.
Which is kind of more of an angler's way of understanding a lake. Like, just because your tournament spot isn't producing that year, you still know someone else is getting them.
Oh, and they do, right?
Yeah. So it's not like you don't determine, okay, the population is done because I couldn't find them.
Good point.
Like,
that's exactly the perfect analogy. And that's what, believe it or not, that's what they do. Mm. And so this might be a case of that. If they've been dropping the nets since 1985 in those areas, and of course we all know things have changed since then. Well, you can't. It's not an accurate count anymore just because they're not there. But anyways, it's a long. I spent way too much time on that. Do you have a buzzer button? When I reach my limit on something, I think you should.
A buzzer would be nice.
Yeah,
I'll need another button here. Yeah.
Maybe we'll get like an actual buzzer, like not a button,
big
like
red one,
like a big red button, like on.
My desk. Well, I have a big red button.
See?
No, I'm not saying who I am. I'm just saying there's a big button.
We're not getting paid now.
We weren't getting paid from the beginning. You were getting paid for this?
Yeah. Anyways, okay, interesting story. I see it goes on here. It's
it'll all be on the website. There's some stuff because I've also gotten feedback that not a lot of these stories are positive. So I've added some positivity into this where there's some stalking programs. There's some positive stuff going on.
The news in general is always very negative.
Yeah. If it bleeds, it leads. So
if it bleeds, it leads.
But now there will be some positivity. You just have to go to the website for it.
So they're telling you not to push the buttons, and you don't push the buttons. Mm-hmm. They're telling you enough with the negative stories, and now you're adding positive slants to the stories.
Yeah.
He's a pushover.
I mean,
A
come
man
on.
of the people.
You're a man of the people. Dean, the man of the people.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that.
So are you Dean the People Machine?
Yeah, that's what he
that
is.
don't sound so good.
Rename him.
Yeah.
Fan question of the week brought to you by fishfindermounts.com.
Come on now.
Is he going to be eligible for the
So,
$50?
Jay Irving is eligible, but
But
this name is very familiar. And Jay Irving is always around the show.
we, I can see if he's got a coupon
the
already.
store manager will have to determine how many times this.
So we're talking at J Irving 7167. You're saying what is maybe,
Maybe double dipping, but this was a good question. And I had a feeling this would fit in with today's show, so I had to use it.
Oh, you had a feeling.
I had a feeling.
Wow, you're like clairvoyant or something. Huh?
We'll see, but I think so.
I think
So-
he has not won a coupon code before.
Okay.
So what do you? What? Okay. So what's the matter with at J Irving?
My thought was that he's won before,
Oh,
and now he's back trying to win again.
It doesn't look like it, though.
But yeah, so he's good. He's in. This might work
so he's in contention right now to win something.
if you like this question. Yeah.
$50.
Okay. At J Irving 7167 via YouTube. That's why he's in contention
Yep.
to win, right? I got it. I see what you're doing. Hey guys, nice to see you out on the road again for your podcast. He's referring to the On the Road Again Fishing Canada podcast that we do at the end of each day on the water shooting the show. Are we going to continue that, by the way? Is that something?
Oh, yeah.
It is. Okay.
Yeah,
We
they've
already got 3 out.
3 at least are out right now.
All right. Always enjoyable to watch. Going back to last week's episode and the discussions of barbless as much as possible for this season as part of the increased fishing survival rate, to increase survival rate, it had me thinking about the impact of plastic baits on the environment and the fish we consume. Interesting. Plastics have been in use for quite some time now, and especially with popularity of swim baits. I would assume, now, I have to, just before I finish that, we used to call everything that was not a hard bait, we used to call it plastic bait. And then it went to rubber. And then it went to something else, I can't remember, for a period of time. And then it went back to being called plastics. So the first question I would have, are what we call plastic baits actually made out of plastic, right? But anyways, it's just me. I would assume there must be some impact with the amount of microplastics ending up in the environment and in fish as well. Have you heard of any studies into the impact that plastic baits are having on the fish we consume? Bingo. Now I see you brought it full circle there, Dino.
And I do figure we're probably going to need our guests' help on a little bit of this, but I did pull a few studies if you need them.
Well, let's see. What did you pull here? Chemical leaching and toxicity. Soft plastic lures are SPLs, mostly made from PVC and containing phosphates, e.g., and like, do I have to get into that?
No. So basically, they are leaching their chemicals out into the environment. It takes them a while to do it, so they're degrading very slowly, which is something people know about most plastics. I don't think soft plastics are a cause of like mass pollution, but obviously they're not helping. But we'll probably find out later. I also found one on how often fish will ingest plastics. So in a lab study, they found that 63% of brook trout exposed to the plastics will consume the plastic, which actually was kind of low for me, considering how effective soft plastics are as baits. And then in a creel survey, 60% of lake trout contained some sort of plastic bait in their stomach. And we actually reported one. If you're watching the podcast right now, it's a picture on the screen. It's kind of nasty, but there was a lake trout found with just an absolute ton of swim baits and flukes and Senkos. And
I'm going to save a story for our guest that's coming up about that, because I used to do my own experimenting more not curious about whether fish would be harmed by the plastic, but I was more curious of whether they would bite on it. So we used to play around with that. Anyways, interesting story there, Dino. But rather, or question, I guess, or comment, I think we need to give this person the goods, Nick.
All right, they get the goods. So, Mr. Gerving, Mr. Gerving,
Sure.
Mr. Gerving.
Yeah.
Write in to our Facebook or Instagram with a little proof that you own this YouTube account, and we'll get you set up. It's as simple as that. A little screenshot of like you signed in, something that just lets me know that you're you, not someone trying to take your code, and we will get you set up very nicely.
And hopefully we can answer more of that question with our next guest. This episode is brought to you by Sail. Sail is proudly Canadian and stocked with over 100 Canadian brands you know and love.
From rods and reels to sonars to kayaks and every last lure you've seen on the Fishing Canada show, Sail has all the gear to get you on the water.
Drop into one of 12 stores across Ontario and Quebec and talk to the real fishing specialists, or gear up online anytime at sail.ca.
Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures. This episode is brought to you by Angler's Leaderboard and its photo measure feature. Angler's Leaderboard makes every catch count by integrating seamlessly with their patent-pending AI-enabled fish measurement board. Now you can automatically measure catch length and detect species in seconds just by using your smartphone camera. It's fast, accurate, and reduces handling. So now you can release healthier fish and keep fishing for the big ones. Learn more at anglersleaderboard.com.
All right, this next segment brought to you by Silverwax, new sponsor with the program. I guess you guys kicked this off while I was away last week.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. I want to introduce them to the show and to the audience. A Canadian company that's been building fine products to look after your toys, whether it's automobile, boats, anything that you can drive, I guess. You wax it, clean it, do all kinds of good stuff to it. Proudly Canadian since 1999. And I can tell you, personal experience, I do a lot of waxing on my vehicles. This stuff is the real deal. So check them out. Silverwax, welcome to the program. And welcome to the program, Pauline Gerrard, Executive Director of the IISD Experimental Lakes area that I talked about earlier on in the program. Interesting subject, and finally my life has come full circle. When I was young, I dreamed of going into these experimental lakes. Now you're going to bring me there. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. We're really excited to be here.
Oh, thanks. So I don't know whether you are able to catch the front half of the show, but when I was young, probably in my late teens and early 20s, I used to go into Algonquin Park on a regular basis, 3-4 times a year. And aside from immersing myself into that wonderful, pristine wilderness, I was also intrigued because we were always trying to find this experimental lake that we had heard about. And nobody knew much about it, but other than the fact that, of course, nobody could go in there and fish it, obviously, but nobody knew its whereabouts. Somewhere in the bowels of Algonquin Park was this, I don't know, laboratory designed to work on fishes, and we wanted to find it, never did. And lo and behold, here you are. Tell us a little bit about this whole, you're in the Kenora area, right?
Yeah, we're about halfway between Kenora and Dryden, south of Highway 17. We have 58 small boreal lakes in that region, the heart of canoe country for sure. They were set aside back in 1968 by the Government of Canada to do whole lake experiments and understand the impacts that we humans are having on freshwater systems. So that's what we do. We have these 58 lakes and we do research on them.
No, when you say whole lake experiment, sort of define that. What does that mean, whole lake experiment?
Yeah, so the lakes that we work on are small, and we will do an experiment on the whole lake. So we really try and understand everything in it and how they are connected. So water chemistry, invertebrates, plankton, fish. And we started because of problems with harmful algal blooms and large algal blooms that were happening in Lake Erie and the Great Lakes. There were some government scientists at the time that figured we really needed to look at this in the field. And so they started this program in this really remote area of Ontario where there's not cabins and towns and cities also influencing these lakes, and started to do research to really understand what is going on with these large blooms that we're seeing in the Great Lakes. And from that initial research, we added nutrients to a series of lakes, and we learned that there's a direct connection between phosphorus and algal blooms. And so if we can control phosphorus, then we can reduce harmful algal blooms.
So even on a big lake like Erie, you think that basically your test facilities, your small ponds or lakes that you're working on can give you the answer on maybe unlocking, because I know it's bad when the algae bloom hits that part of the province. Man, it is bad, and I've always wondered why. How does that happen? What's behind it? Is the goal here to try and control the algae bloom by discovering what's causing it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's trying to manage our landscape in a better way so that those large algal blooms are not happening. And for sure, by studying in a very controlled small lake, we can focus in on that question of what is causing the bloom without having all of the other influences that you would see on Lake Erie. And we were really able to see that, yeah, there's a direct correlation between phosphorus, which in the 60s, when we first started studying, most of the phosphorus was coming from wastewater from cities and soaps and detergents. We used a lot more phosphorus in soaps and detergents at that time. And following our research in the 70s, regulations were put in place here in Canada to limit the amount of phosphorus that can be used in soaps and detergents. And now there's regulations all around the world.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's really had an impact. Of course, we still see harmful algal blooms, and that's partly because phosphorus comes from more than just soaps and detergents. Right. And it is quite dispersed, so it's hard to manage. But, yeah, we are doing this work to help manage our freshwater systems better.
I remember one time, has nothing to do with this, but my mind can't help but wander. One time in Western Canada, I think it was northern Alberta, if I'm not mistaken, I ran into the worst algae bloom I'd ever seen in my life on a lake, but it was blue. It was the color of your top. It was blue, and the locals called it blue algae.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that? Or?
Yeah. I mean, algae is a plant, right? And there's lots of different species of algae, just like there's lots of different species of plants. And yeah, blue grains are actually some of the most harmful kinds for people and pets if we touch the water. I have also seen that, I know exactly what you're talking about. Not there, but in a similar place, and it's so blue. It's crazy.
Weird. What? Well, first of all, let me ask you: is this a NGO or is this a government agency that you have, or how does?
Yeah, we were originally set up by the government of Canada through an agreement with the province of Ontario because we're on provincial crown land. But in 2014, the facility was moved to become a not-for-profit and work under the International Institute for Sustainable Development. So we are an NGO. We have charitable status, and we still get government money, but we also get funding from a wide variety of sources. And we work still closely with the government because we're obviously trying to understand problems that can be addressed through regulation or through our own practices.
Now, I mentioned at the top of the piece that, I was always looking for that well-hidden, secret experimental lake somewhere. How do you guys deal with that? You must have, you said you have 58 bodies of water. How do you keep them under the dome, the secrecy dome? How do you manage to do that?
Well, actually, we don't so much anymore. In 2014, when we transitioned to being an NGO, we realized that we have a huge opportunity here actually to raise awareness and build capacity and try and inspire Canadians around this amazing freshwater resource that we have. And so since that time, we started building an education program. We invite people to come to the site to do tours. We do a lot of science communications in media and social media. We are in a really remote area. We're not easy to get to. So, that keeps people out in some way. And we're down a controlled road by the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. But generally, we welcome visitors and we want to show off what we're doing.
That's a great idea because most people in your line of work frown on somebody looking over your shoulder, right? So this is refreshing, and I love it. I love the sound of it. Now, you've got 58 bodies of water that have a variety of different species of organisms, including what I love, and that is fish. Is there ever any concern that what you're doing experimenting-wise might get out and or into some other bodies of water, or is that even possible the way you guys have got it all contained?
We think really hard about our research before we do it. And there's a whole series of kind of processes to make sure that things that are unexpected won't happen.
Right.
But of course, we're doing research, right? So that in itself is testing. But there's a couple of things that are really important. All of our experiments are designed around what's already being seen in the world. So we've done, for an example, a study on artificial estrogen, which is the chemical found in birth control pills.
Yes.
It's not treated by wastewater treatment plants, and so you get artificial estrogen found downstream from cities. And so we designed an experiment in one of our lakes that was mimicking a similar level to what was being seen downstream from a medium-sized city like Winnipeg, for example. And so as a result, we're not creating so much pollution that it would harm anybody if they came across, because these are levels that we're seeing in other parts of the world. Secondly, and this I know you will love to hear, is that because we work in really small lakes, there's not huge fish populations. So it's really important for us not to actually harm the population of fish through our research. We want to study it. We want to understand the impacts, but we really do a lot to make sure that we're not killing fish or doing as much as we can to have to kill as few as we have to. So, instead of taking a fish sample and cutting them up and looking in liver, we do things like we take slime and we're trying to understand if you can see stress markers in fish slime from the outside. And then that way you can release them. When we do population surveys, we use traps that were catch and release. And so we're not kind of gill netting and then killing a whole bunch of fish. We're really being intentional about how we study.
Anything that you're working on that we haven't discussed yet in terms of projects?
We have a big study right now on microplastics. It's kind of a hot topic. We all use it in our everyday lives. And really, it's kind of interesting how little is known about the impacts that plastics are having, both on our ecosystems as well as on human health. And so right now, we're in the third year of a study where we're adding microplastics to a lake and really watching how they move through the lake. Where do they go? Do they sink? Do they float? Do they end up in the phytoplankton or the zooplankton or the fish? Are they having negative consequences? Really trying to understand what's going on. And that, is very exciting and interesting and topical in terms of the world right now.
Now I know our genius producer is going to take credit for this, but coincidentally, the fan question of the week earlier on in the program was exactly about that. The microplastics that, might end up floating around in our environment meaning, waterways and places that we fish. So it's great that and what exactly are you looking to find with this study on the microplastics?
We want to understand what happens to microplastics in lakes. We know now that they're found everywhere in the world. We've done research looking at how many plastics are in the Arctic, how many are in our remote lakes, where are they, and what kind of plastics are they? And we know that there's plastics really scattered all around the earth, partly because it gets into the air, very small particles of plastic, and it really moves around. We also know that plastics are making their way into organisms like fish. And so we don't do the health side so much, the human health, but we want to know what is happening to them in the environment. Do they float? Do they sink? How do they kind of flow away? How fast would they? What we're finding is that they actually sink faster than we thought and then get buried in the sediments, which is good because once they're buried in the sediments, they're no longer in the water and getting into fish or zooplankton or plankton. So understanding how fast they kind of get buried and are no longer mobile is great. And then hopefully that can give us some recommendations about how we can manage plastics. And it definitely gives a strong reason that if we could limit our plastic use, then the environment will take care of itself. But we have to do that first step of trying to use less plastic in the world.
Now, you're making it sound like every piece of plastic is constantly giving off these little floaty things that you're referring to that now you find out that sink. Is it true? Is there that much of a concern that everything that we know as plastic is giving this stuff off?
I mean, I guess it's not quite as straightforward as that. Plastic, there's different kinds of plastic, right? There's rigid plastic, soft, It's got colors, it's got UV filters. So plastic itself has chemicals embedded in it. Right. And what we're finding is that in some cases, because it's getting into our bodies, then that means that it's bringing those chemicals with them. And that has the potential for negative consequences.
Got it.
It's a question that we're not trying to solve, but is interesting. Are there plastics that are less harmful to the environment than others? Perhaps. We're looking at 3 in our study, one that floats, one that's kind of neutrally buoyant, and one that sinks. And they're things that you would see in freshwater environment, like made from things you would see in freshwater environments already, like water bottles or kayaks.
How about plastic lures, fish baits? I mean, that's plastic. Some of it, I would imagine, falls into that category. Are you studying that at all?
Not specifically. No, not specifically. Actually, from the kind of baseline work that we did at the Experimental Lakes area and then in other parts of Canada, we found that the largest type of microplastics, small pieces of plastic that are around are actually fibers. So that's plastic that's coming from your clothing, like fleece. We wash it in our washing machine, small pieces break down and eventually ends up in water. So we're focusing on those kinds of things, right?
I remember one time we did an experiment. I used to have this great big 10,000 gallon aquarium, the size of a bedroom, and full of freshwater fish and whatnot. And we used to experiment with all kinds of things with them in terms of color and profile of baits and how they reacted to certain sounds and all that stuff, right? Well, I remember one time and I'm going back now in the mid 80s, a company introduced a biodegradable plastic bait, and it was all the rage, right? And so we put this bait in the aquarium because we wanted to see what exactly does a biodegradable bait look like in a day or 2 days or a week or a month. Well, first of all, a month wasn't even in the picture, right? Because we're thinking biodegradable, it must just break up once it hits the water. And in which case, what good is that for fishing, right? That was the thinking. So we did, and did not degrade the fish at all to the point the fish loved it. They were consuming it like regular food. And out the other end comes a whole bait. So so there was no biodegradable qualities or principles on this thing at all, except the packaging said biodegradable. It did not go anywhere. It stayed intact. So that was my experimenting with. So I wonder if you guys are kind of into that end of the business as well. We haven't looked at biodegradable plastic or substances so much. We do have a part of IISD, our sort of parent organization, that looks at kind of closed cycle accounting and where products come from, but that's separate from me. I don't know much about biodegradable bait, but I love that you're experimenting on it in your aquarium. So it was great because we thought, what a great concept, right? Obviously, nobody was checking back then as to whether the labels were authentic. Mercury. Do you check mercury levels up there? Because a lot of people are confused about mercury content. I would say if you ask 10 people on the street about mercury content, 9 of them would believe that it is a manufactured substance that we have put into the environment, when in fact, as you probably know, most of it is not. It's naturally occurring in bedrock, lake bottoms, etc. Do you play around with that at all?
Yeah, we've done actually a lot of work on mercury over the years. And you're absolutely right. The challenge with mercury is it's naturally occurring in rocks and sediments. It gets mobilized up into the atmosphere when we have coal-fired power plants or big mining operations, and it's really volatile. So it moves all around the world. So we could have mercury here in northwestern Ontario that came from a coal-fired power plant in China. And so that makes it pretty hard to control. What we've done is we've looked at how mercury moves through the environment. And particularly the thing that's really challenging with mercury is there's a form of it called organic or methyl mercury that bioaccumulates up the food chain and is a neurotoxin. And so what that means is that when we have these large, slow growing, cold loving fish in northwestern Ontario, they've accumulated mercury over the course of their whole life. And that's why they have elevated levels of mercury in their body. And there are certain habitats that we can create, like if you flood a reservoir or kind of wetland type habitats, that's better for creating this kind of form of mercury. But it's a real challenge in Ontario. I mean, the fishing consumption guidelines.
Yeah. I'm always amazed when I hear the scientific community saying those things, because I know the general public at large has no idea. For example, most of us would assume that if we go into those wild, pristine, outback areas of northern Ontario, that those fish would not be making contact with things like mercury. On the other hand, fish in the Great Lakes, in Lake Ontario, they've got to be full of mercury content. When in fact, we know now by science that that's not the case at all. I don't ever recall hearing a message or any sort of communication from the scientific community to the angling world that that's not the case. In fact, some of those northern lakes, like you just alluded to, yeah, there is a high content of mercury in some of the fish in those areas. And it's just a misconception that we have, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, there is areas where there's specific mercury pollution. If you Grassy Narrows, which is not actually so far of us, they've had mercury problems because of pollution.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the lakes in Ontario, the reason that we have problems with mercury is because what's naturally occurring and moving around the atmosphere. Yeah. But you're right. It's a good idea about communication, science communication, specifically to the angling community about it.
Because nobody knows. I mean, and most people I talk to about that are shocked. They say, "Oh, go on, you don't know what you're talking about. How can that be?" Well, it can't. I remember several years ago we did an episode in not far from your neck of the woods, actually, northwestern Ontario, and for whatever reason, Pete and I decided that we wanted to eat sushi walleye right out on the lake, because where else are you going to get pure clean? This was a fly-in little body of water that had one little cabin on it, no traffic at all, completely removed from the world. So we said, okay, tomorrow we're gonna get a little cutting board. We're gonna put it on the seat of the boat. We're gonna grab a nice little walleye and we're gonna sushi that baby up. And so we did, and we produced the episode and it went out. I'll bet you it wasn't on air for 2 or 3 days. I got a call from an M&R official. Introduced himself. He was a big fan of the show, and he said, I watched the episode this weekend, and a bunch of us decided we needed to reach out to you guys because you're sending the wrong message out to the angling community, because that was highly dangerous. What you did was very dangerous, and I think you need to let folks know that that's not a good idea to take a fish unprocessed, not cooked, raw, and eat it right there, because you're assuming that there's no pollutant. And then he went on to tell me about that body of water and all of the findings that they had in terms of, in fact, not only pollutants, but parasites and all kinds of stuff that we could have ingested. So we don't have, we just think where you are, it's just pristine, man. Like it's God's country. It's perfect, when in fact that's not the case.
Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. And it sure looks like, I mean, it's so beautiful.
Oh.
But there's things that we can't see. That's for sure.
By the way, sushi walleye is unbelievably good. Okay. But you must flash freeze it. Now we know you have to flash freeze it before you do consume it. If you flash freeze it, then you're fine. And that's what kills.
And that will take care of the parasites? Because it's parasites actually I would have been worried about. Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole process, temperature that you have to hit in the freezing process. That's why flash freezing. And then it apparently kills all the parasites. We can consume them and everything's good. But if you just grab that fish out of the wild and consume it, you're probably ingesting some bad, nasty stuff. So
we interrupt this program to bring you a message from Anglers Leaderboard, an AI-powered platform built for today's anglers. Use your phone and the photo measure board to automatically detect length and species, log catches, and track your stats over time. Whether you're fishing solo or joining a regional tournament, ALB helps you stay organized and competitive. Head over to anglersleaderboard.com to learn more and start using ALB today.
I have visions of, much like I did when I was younger, going to Algonquin Park because I wanted to find this lake, because I knew that if I'd come over that grassy knoll and peek through those bushes, I would see these big concrete buildings and satellite dishes on top of them and guys running around in lab coats. Try and paint a picture of these 58 lakes that you guys work on.
Oh, they are just so beautiful. I mean, they are like any of the lakes that you have fished on in northwestern Ontario. We work on the smaller ones, and so they're kind of scattered among in the region, very much like Algonquin Park, where you commute through. The lakes that we're doing research on, we have a sign that says, please don't fish in these lakes, because we're doing work on them. Sometimes we do work in enclosures, which are kind of a pin, like we'll put a floating circle, a plastic curtain down to the bottom of the lake, sandbags on the lake, and then we'll do experiments in those enclosures. And so those you can see from the shore. But for the most part, it looks like a small northern Ontario lake that has a bunch of floating things in it where people are going out to.
So you don't put up buildings and parking lots and all that stuff?
We have a field station, and we have kind of 3 dormitories. We have about accommodations for about 55 that right now there's research scientists, students, visitors. There's a field course running right now. Happening. We have a chemistry lab. We do a lot of our analytical chemistry right on site because we want to do the analysis as soon as a lot of our samples are perishable, so they would change over time. So if we can do the nutrient analysis right away, we get better results. We have a fish lab where we process and manage a lot of our kind of fish work. But yeah, no big walls or it looks like a field camp.
It sounds fantastic. We need to send the Fish in Canada crew up there sometime to maybe get some visuals of that and watch you guys work. That. Yeah,
we would welcome them. That would be so great.
We'll see what we can set up. Do you ever invite other people from the scientific community to come up and work with you and or work in those bodies of water for their own purposes, their own experiments and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the vast majority of our projects are pretty big in scope, right? We're adding plastics to a lake, a whole lake, a small lake, but still. So we try really hard for all of our larger projects to work with many academic institutions. Those academics are people that have studied whatever the thing that we're looking at for a long time, and so they have that expertise. We also bring government scientists and researchers because they're the ones that'll take policy recommendations forward.
Right.
And we also work with industry. So on most of our projects, we try and have scientists from those 3 groups involved right from the beginning. And I mean, right now we're working with over 30 different universities across Canada, and then we have some in the States and some in Europe as well.
I'll have to, we have gentleman that's been working with us for a while on the program. He's a regular on the show, Dr. Cook, Stephen Cook from Carleton University. He'd probably, if he hasn't been to your place, he'd probably love to visit and do some work. Do you have any bass there? Because that's what he specializes in. Do you do any bass work at all?
We don't do bass work, and I think we have bass in some of our lakes, but honestly, it's not a fish that we focus on much, so I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, because he would definitely require that to get him up there for sure. I'll talk to him about it. Sounds fascinating. As I said before, I think we need to spend a little more time communicating with the public at large about some of these activities that are going on behind the scenes, because most of us have no idea what's going on. I tell M&R officials all the time that they do some fantastic work, but they don't tell anybody about it. So the only thing you can hear about them when it comes to press releases and stories is the negative parts, never the positive parts about the quality of work that goes into especially field work like you guys are doing. So
yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more, and I really welcome the opportunity to talk to you today. We're always looking for ways to communicate more and better, but I think all of us need to be, speaking out about the really good things that science is helping us understand.
Is there some place where folks can reach out and see what you're doing and maybe even communicate and that kind of thing?
Yep, absolutely. Check our website, search IISD Experimental Lakes Area. And there's contact details there if anybody wants to come for a tour or is interested in research at ELA. We welcome partners and collaborators and visitors. Fantastic.
One more thing before I let you go. How long have you been on the project? How long have you been working there?
I started as a student when I was about 22 at the Experimental Lakes area when I was in my undergrad. I did my master's there on mercury, interestingly enough. And then I went away and worked for some other people. And now I've been back since 2014, since IISD took over the facility.
What is the most bizarre experiment in your mind that you've seen that you guys have actually worked on? But when I say bizarre, the most far-fetched experiment where people would say, well, why in the world are you working on, what's the purpose of that? What would that be for you?
So the one that comes to mind is one that actually DFO did a couple of years ago. So they're interested in trying to see if they could use satellite imagery to monitor beluga populations in the Arctic. And but they didn't want to go all the way to the Arctic to test things. They wanted to do some preliminary work first. So they bought a bunch of big wooden beluga models to ELA, and they floated them in our lake. And then they took photos with, took satellite imagery to see how well they could use that satellite imagery to assess the wooden belugas in our lake.
Wow, you guys must have said, what?
Yeah, I have one more too, actually. And we do fun things, like particularly when people will say, hey, try this. So we've done a whole series of work on oil and trying to understand oil spills and how to clean up oil. And we were approached by a group out of the States who trains dogs to smell oil if there's an oil spill. And they had trained dogs in all kinds of environments, but they were never able to test how effective they were at smelling oil underwater or under ice. And so we brought them out to ELA, into the lake where we'd done oil research, and they did a series of tests, and we found that dogs are very, very good at smelling oil. They can smell up to 3 meters underwater, and they could smell it under ice. And so now, that's really practical when it comes to looking for abandoned oil wells or understanding exactly where, a leak in a pipeline might be coming from.
How many dogs did you have up there for that?
I think it was 2.
Just the 2? Wow.
Yeah. And if you look up Poppy, the oil sniffing dog, online, you'll probably see they're so cute. They came in the winter and they had snow goggles, and they were hilarious.
Well, it sounds like an interesting occupation and a wonderful place to spend some time, especially if you have to call it work. So I envy you for that. Listen, I appreciate you joining us today, taking time away from your busy day. If you ever have anything come up that you say, man, I got to get the word out, please remember us. We will do the same. We'll get you on. We'll just Dean will give you a shout and see what's new and get you on again, and maybe we can break some news. How's that?
That would be useful. I would love that so much. That'd be great.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us.
You're very welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Pauline Gerrard, Executive Director of the International Institute of Sustainable Development, or IISD. And these things go around a lot more often. This is not a unicorn by any means. There's experimental units going on in North America by the thousands that we have no idea what and where and how, but they are fascinating. I always love them. Anything did you learn from that, Dino? Or you?
I enjoyed the dog bit. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Like under ice, I'm not even sure how that works. But there's
Under
also,
ice.
I also really liked what you said about raising awareness that these pristine lakes aren't quite as clean as you think. Because one, I've seen a trend online where people are like drinking the water from like glaciers and stuff in national parks, getting super sick from that.
For
Because it
sure.
seems clean, but it's not.
For sure.
And then I remember when I guided in the Kenora area, and I was eating like at least one fish per day.
Yeah.
And for like a month. And I remember,
Oh.
and I remember the M&R stopped us. It was like, I had been there since May, probably July, they stopped me. And I was doing a shore lunch, and it came up that like I had been eating it all week, and they were like, oh, like, I hope you're not eating a whole lot. I was like, yeah, probably like one per day. And they were like, oh my God. Like,
Well, think about it. I mean, we who would think that, I mean, all the polluting that goes on, we automatically associate it with us doing these things, right? Manufacturing products and throwing them out in the environment. But a lot of it happens by nature.
yeah.
And certainly in the wilds of the northern part of this country, there's a lot of that going
It
on.
never crossed my mind at all. And I remember I had a client one time who took his water bottle and filled it up from the lake when like no one was paying attention. He got so sick.
You get
he just
beaver fever.
Yeah, that's what he got.
Giardia,
Giardia? Is that what it is?
I think it's called. Yeah,
But I remember.
I had it once.
Oh, really?
Oh my
Apparently
God.
it's a nightmare.
I wanted to die.
Yeah.
I would have been happy dying. It's terrible. And that is exactly that, going up a river and climbing a rock and getting in the trees, and there's this little trickle of water coming out of the face of the mountain, and like, how can that be polluted?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you take a drink. That's what happened to me, and oh boy.
Oh, man.
Did I ever learn. Anyways, fascinating subject. If you want more information, will we be posting up there?
Yeah, we'll put that all up. We'll try to, it'll be on our Instagram and stuff, I'm sure, too, when we put this up.
Dean, Nick, did you learn anything?
Yeah, I thought it was cool how the microplastics sink a lot faster than we do. It gets in the sediment and all that. Like, I don't know, mostly when I think of plastic and water,
Floats.
I think of floating or at least suspended. Like, look at
Especially your little duckies. that you
Yeah,
have here.
exactly. A little duck or a little Yozuri little minnow or something.
That's right.
Like that, floating
That's right.
and suspended.
But it sinks.
But no, it sinks.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah.
the biggest piece that was like, oh my.
I could spend, I'd love to go to one of these places and spend a week there and just go to as many of their sites as you possibly can and watch them do their thing.
Yeah.
The other interesting thought was the estrogen bit.
Yeah, it's been going around for a while.
I just to hear that it's
And
like a thing now
Didn't
that they're
we-
testing for is pretty interesting.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't we have an outbreak of that here in Southern Ontario? And I don't remember the community, but the estrogen was causing the local species of trout to go sterile.
Yeah, we're still having that problem. It turns, and frogs, it turns female.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff like that where it's having, I think out west with the salmon population, they're noticing the spawning success is way down because of it. So
Crazy.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Very.
Hey, it was interesting subject, and wonderful how just miraculously the question of the day, Dean.
Yes.
Just took. Hey, Nick, what do you
It
think?
coincided.
Yeah.
It was a perfect.
somebody knows what they're doing.
It's almost like it wasn't that random of a reach into the 10-gallon drum. That was a very deliberate.
We haven't heard about that in a while.
No, but now I'm starting to wonder whether it was the drum even existed.
Of course it exists.
The way you were able to
It's a
connect
conspiracy.
this. It was a great program. time to run. Want to thank everybody for joining us. Listen, if you haven't yet, do us a bit of a favor, and maybe yourself too. I don't know how you look at that, but I certainly would think it'd be a favor for us. Subscribe. If you're watching, listening, and you're not subscribed, push the button wherever it happens to be there on your screen and subscribe. It's really the only way that we have of knowing how we're doing out there, and it certainly helps our cause. So it's free to you, but it means something to us. Let's make it happen. All right?
Come on now.
On behalf of the entire crew, Nikki over there, Dean over there, thanks for joining us, folks. I'm Angelo Viola. Catch you next time. This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio is brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. JMB Cycle and Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment. And Silverwax, absolute care for everything you drive.